This shall be the first question. And the question, what kind of watch is that? Yeah, like I said, it's a metric clock, so noon is 10. No, this is a cheapy, what is it? Unlisted. That's what it says, unlisted. Which I kind of like. It won't tell you what time it is. It's just like, but thanks. Was your family religious when you were a child, or were you brought up atheist? No, I was, oh man, Ukrainian Catholic. I was an altar boy. And there was a moment when I was doing my altar boyishness when it struck me, and I kind of looked around and I said, I'm in the rectory. They're just out and out calling it that. That cannot be a good thing. Yeah, no. So I had First Communion, and I had confession. Oh, the tumult of confession. Jesus. I had this idea that they should have an express line for confession, like 5 sins or less. You could just kind of in and out, and, you know, and like I used to argue with not argue so much with the priest, but just he would we'd play, you know, he would ask questions, like 20 questions with sin. It was just awful, you know. So no, my dad, however, was kind of a quiet atheist. So Dad was a musician as well. Dad was my first music teacher. He taught me drums, which is what I do for a living. I play drums for a living. I know you look at me and you think, there's a funk drummer. Yeah, that's what I do. So he was my first teacher, and because he was gigging Saturday night, he didn't go to church on Sunday because he was tired, as opposed to being smart. So like we never questioned it, and then I had this for a while. I had this theory that Dad was secretly Jewish. I just had this theory, like maybe maybe that's what the deal is. No, he was secretly an atheist. And but to my mom's credit, she taught me to think and question. And so when I one day came to her and said, we're reading this book called Inherit the Wind, and there's this word agnostic, and I think I'm an agnostic. And she dropped the thing of pasta she was cooking, you know, and sort of said, okay, explain. And ultimately she was cool with it. So, yeah, kudos to my mom. What do you like best about Australia? I think the questions. What makes a good shoe? That's got to have soul, man. Please come back. You are awesome. That is not a question. What's your opinion of WikiLeaks and ITS actions? Yeah. Well, that first WikiLeaks video where they were like showing the helicopter pilots killing the people in the street and stuff. It's like, ugh. It's awful, but necessary, I guess. Yeah, I think, what do they say? Sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? I don't know if it's actually the best disinfectant, but it's an effective disinfectant. So, yeah, I as long as it doesn't, I don't know. There's no joke there, forget it. Drums or guitar first? Can you play Freebird? Yeah, drums first. Like I said, my dad was my teacher. I wanted to play trumpet because in my dad's band, Paul was the trumpet player, and Paul always brought me army men. So I made the association that if you play trumpet, you have access to free army men, which was the shit. So it was like, okay, I gotta play trumpet, and it turned out we couldn't quite swing the trumpet rental. So Dad said, "Well, what if I teach you drums?" I was like, "Yeah, cool, okay." It's more time with Dad. So practice pad, and I played on my bed for like 10 years before I got a drum set. So guitar was an escape for me when I was in college because I was structured percussion study hour after hour, supposedly. And guitar, my roommate had a guitar, so I got to like kind of just tweedle on that. And it's a lot easier to write songs on that than on a drum set. a little quieter too. Someone has drawn what looks to be a cubist minty. You can see that. That's on the screen there. Oh, it's not on the screen. But good question. Good question. Yes. Here's my answer. What do you see as the future of podcasting? Will it necessarily become a paid medium, or is it viable long-term in its current form? Yeah. Podcasting, if you're not aware, is this kind of audio magazine you can download from disparate sources. Yeah, I think the future of podcasting will be that people that are more famous will jump over and will possibly charge for their content. I know Adam Carolla is a famous sort of, he was a TV personality in America. Now he's pretty much podcasting, and he's making a living off of it with sponsors and stuff. I think it's very viable in its current form, if only because I'm the perfect example of some schmuck who podcasts and ends up in Australia. You know what I mean? Like, there is no reason why you lovely people should be listening to me rant tonight. There is no reason whatsoever, except for the fact that we have the intertubes and podcasting. So I think the way it is quite damn viable. Should I sell out my principles and allow my children to attend a Christian information session at their public school or risk ostracizing? Wow. Ostracizing them by not allowing them to go. Only for students not going. Yeah, let them attend. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing, the other side, the other team, and I don't want to make this teams, but they're often afraid of the dissemination of information because their information that they own is so kind of weak, and you can kind of pull it apart really easy, whereas the information on our side is pretty frickin' solid. So I highly recommend people go to Bible study. I highly recommend that people read, those awful creationist books, because you got to know what the arguments are. In college, due to a series of very strange tsunami-like circumstances, I dated a Christian girl who was nuts in bed, by the way. I'm talking like trapeze and walk, and like it was crazy. But anyway, which was its own kink, because it's like a weird, it's awful, but it was, yeah. But I read the Bible, because that's what we did before we read the Bible. And it's like, at one point I remember thinking, like, have you read this thing? This is crazy. We were just talking about Leviticus. Like, I'm sorry that I keep spitting. It's like little missiles of shame. Every single thing. Sorry. But, yeah, thank you. You read Leviticus, where like man will not lay with man, which is the big thing. That's the big deal. Man will not lay with man. And then two paragraphs previous to that, it says like, don't eat shrimp. Don't combine cotton and linen. Seriously, that's like in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And you read it, and that's the response. Like, are you kidding me? I was accosted once by a guy who came up to me on a boardwalk, kind of like by a beach, and he said, "Do you know what John 3:16 is?" And I said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so we'd have eternal life." And he was like, "Brethren?" I said, "Atheist." Because if you go up to him and you say, yes, what was what's the first law of thermodynamics? He's not going to know it. So it was really cool. So yeah, so let him attend and tell them to think. And if it sounds like bullshit, say it's okay that it sounds like bullshit. All right. When did your balls drop? Right before this question.